They can, yes.
Are
So
you gonna
you'll want
be,
to switch it here. Yeah, I'm
are
gonna
you
go
gonna be
log in
monitoring
downstairs.
that?
I'll log in downstairs.
You gonna leave me?
Well, if you want me to like break in and tell you you have a question, yeah.
You come up here and be part of the class.
Okay, I'll be downstairs.
Well, that's the opposite. So do I just have to click the slides here then?
Mhm. You might want to scoot over just a little bit. All right, and you have quite the celebrity.
Apparently. Well, thanks for coming, y'all. I appreciate it. This is my first time to teach a class in the office, so we'll see what happens, see where it goes. But obviously, I'm teaching about wealth building, um, and so I'm going to talk about a couple different things. First, I'm going to talk about wealth building and my passive income journey. So my name is Nick, by the way, in case you don't know me. I've been a part of this office for about 10 years. I got my license in right when I graduated high school. So I don't look that old, but I've been here for a long time. I'm 29. And so I'm going to briefly cover just like a couple minutes on this slide, and then we're going to get into like, the content and how to build profit share, how to build wealth, and some helpful stuff. Hopefully it'll be helpful for you guys. So I basically started when I was in like middle school, high school. A lot of people are familiar with like the McKissicks, Jim and Linda, and then their son Press is my best friend. So we're the same, and we met in kindergarten. And so growing up, I wanted to be a real estate agent. That was the only thing I remember in middle school. I wanted to grow up and be a real estate agent. So that's kind of weird. That's all I wanted to do. And then I worked for some of the teams here. I worked for the Lambs. I worked for the McKissick group in high school and did some stuff during the summertime. So just kind of like almost internship type things. But then I had like, so what I call a quarter life crisis, maybe a little bit dramatic, but I like to be dramatic sometimes. So I had a quarter life crisis because I started like senior year, I started actually working as an agent, and then discovered that I didn't really like it. And so I was like, wow, this thing, only thing I want to do my whole life, and I'm not really enjoying it. So I was like, what am I going to do in real estate? You know, what else I'm going to do? And so I actually graduated, or after I graduated college, I got a job at with a home builder and did that for a few years. And so it kind of took a little detour, but through that time, I actually discovered profit share from Linda, because that's kind of when Linda's profit share was like really taking off and gathering steam, and people were noticing. And I was like, I'd been at Keller Williams for, 8 years, and I'd never heard of recruiting, never heard of profit share or any of that stuff. So, I mean, I only learned about it, a few years ago. I started doing it a few years ago. And then I learned about investing from Press's dad, Jim. And so I would actually go to like the foreclosure auctions with him the first Tuesday of the month and see him bid on houses and watch him like work with his contractors and fix up houses and walk through things that were gutted and stuff like that. So I got kind of a cool picture of profit share and recruiting and then investing. And they both like really excited me. So it's like, I love real estate. I just had to find like what my niche in real estate was. And so today, like that's what I do. So I don't really sell any real estate. And I mean, unless someone like a friend called me and was like, hey, sell my house or help me buy a house, I do that sometimes. But I pretty much spend all my time recruiting and then looking for homes to buy. And then so the numbers, just to give you an idea. So last year I recruited 130 people. I recruited 99 people. The year before was like 70 something. So anyway, it's all new agents, by the way. It's not like I'm bringing in cappers or something like that. So, which I'll get into later, but new agents are a lot easier than cappers, experienced agents, people in other companies, stuff like that. But so that's how many I recruited last year. I'm going to try to beat that. My goal is to get at least 144 this year, like 12 a month. And then I've got 5 rental properties that I've purchased over the years. So I currently manage 5 homes that I own, and I've flipped, 5, 6, 7 properties, something like that in the last couple of years. So anyway, that's just some of the stuff that I've done. Oh, and then I like what I've got here at the bottom. everybody wishes they would have started sooner. So, I mean, I started recruiting at, I was like 26. So, I mean, pretty young in the grand scheme of things, I guess. But I wish I would have started college. Like, if I started college, I'd probably be sitting on the beach somewhere. I don't even know what I'd be doing right now. So, everybody wishes they would have started sooner, but the best time to start is now. You're here. So, it's never too late to start making it better tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know where I got that from. I just wrote it down, but it sounded good.
It does sound good.
Thanks, Lauren. I appreciate it. By the way, if anyone has if you have questions, or online you have questions, type it in. I guess Dan is going to tell me, or you guys just stop me at any point, and let me know, if you have questions, and we'll kind of communicate back and forth. So you're more than welcome to do that. But the purpose of the class, what we're going to cover, I want to basically give you actionable steps to grow your profit share, or actionable steps to grow your profit share and to building wealth. So there's two things I want to focus on is profit share and wealth building. And I want to ask a couple of questions, what I call motivations, excuses. Some people call them limiting beliefs, what have you. But the first question is, what are you hoping to learn from this class? So just throw out some things because I want to cover what you guys want to hear. So tell me something that you want to get out of this.
I want to learn how the system works. Like if I bring one person in as their sponsor, and then they bring somebody in. Like I don't know the structure
Sure.
of the downline.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see, I don't know if it'll show it or not, what the pay structure is to what would give you your biggest bang for your buck. Because obviously the strategy.
Sure. Yeah, that was like me for 7 years in Keller Williams. I had no idea how profit share recruiting worked. I didn't even know what it was. So I think a lot of people don't know what it is, and maybe that's why they don't take advantage of it. But that's good. Lauren?
For me, it's sorry, hopefully I didn't hold it. How you went about finding it. So where was your niche? Was it Facebook ads? Did you do it through command? Did you do it through Facebook? How did you target them? And then has it been high turnover, or are you already getting profit share checks from that?
Right.
And as far as the investment side goes, it's just I don't want to be an excuse to waiting. So obviously I've been told pay the debt off first. And then I've heard start off wholesaling or just save money. So that's kind of what I've been doing. I have a lot of closings coming up in April, and hopefully I just save all of that and it can get down payment is my goal. But should I start sooner than that? Should I have somebody be a lender? I don't know. I don't want to rush, but I want to get smart.
Right. Well, it sounds like you're doing the right thing, and growing your real estate business too, growing your active income, which I'll actually talk about here in a minute too. Okay, so there's two questions, limiting beliefs, you could call them. I call them motivations, excuses. But the first one is so why do you want passive income or wealth? So give me a couple of reasons, why would you want to grow your wealth?
Once you have money in retirement.
Retirement, so planning for the future. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, so making it work for itself. So I want to have the passive income so I can invest it to not have to always, like Myra always says, it's about the money that you keep, not the money that you make.
Right. Yeah. So everybody likes, selling homes, but you don't want to have to do that forever and have to continually work to get the money, I guess.
Right. I love selling homes, and I think we're well good at it. But I think my passion is to do long term more what you're doing, and it'll give me more family life.
Sure. Okay. So then the next question is why don't you currently have it? So not saying you don't have any of that, but think about, you want wealth, you want the passive income. So you're not there yet, I guess, where you want to be. So why aren't you currently there? Why don't you have it? What's the missing link there?
Well, for us, the obstacle is debt. So we have to tackle that first. So I try not to use that excuse. I try to lead generate and build a pipeline and, work on savings if I couldn't figure out the lending situation yet, because we can't qualify for anything. Being self-employed is hard.
It is tough. Yeah. So the point I want to make is if you can find the gap between where you want to go and where you currently are, then you know the missing link and what you need to be working on. So that's kind of the key thing to focus on there. So this is what I call your wealth plan. This is just a graphic that I came up with, but basically you have, so on the left side, you have, your real estate sales and profit share. So profit share is not, you can use it to build wealth, but in itself is not wealth. It's income. It's passive income, but still income. And so the point I want to make is this is how you build wealth. You use, you see this arrow, so income to assets. So the way to get wealthy, as I'm sure you guys know, is to buy assets, right? So like, and what do you buy? Like, I'm going to focus on rental properties, and I'm going to spend a brief slide on index funds because that's something I've been getting into as well, and it's super easy. So the point is, you see the arrow on the left side going up. You basically want to increase your active and your passive income. So like Lauren, you've been growing your real estate sales business, so like that's good. Like whatever you can to increase your income, don't use that to increase your lifestyle. That's kind of the main thing. Like because when people make more money, they buy more stuff. Now, I want you to buy stuff. I just want you to buy stuff that's going to build your wealth. So don't buy like a bigger house or a nice car. Use it to buy things that are going to increase in value. So if anyone's like, heard of like the millionaire real estate, not the millionaire real estate, I'm thinking Keller Williams stuff, the millionaire next door. If anyone's ever read or heard of the millionaire next door, the point of that book is like most of the millionaires live right next door to you, right? They're like normal people. They don't, having a high income in itself doesn't make you rich. If you make a $500,000 a year, that doesn't mean you're wealthy because you could spend all of that. Who knows what you do with that money? So like a lot of the millionaires, they make 60,000 a year and they worked for 30 years, but they were smart with their money and they put it in good places and now they're millionaires. So you don't have to have a super high income, but you have to be smart and put your money in the right places. Just a curious question: does anyone track your net worth?
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Good. That's something that Myra got me on about a year ago. And so I'd encourage you, if you don't do it, start doing it. I mean, I created like a simple Excel spreadsheet, track, my assets, my debts, and subtract them and figure out, how much money I actually have. And I don't count like my clothes or I don't have jewelry or like, personal items. So it's really just like houses and money in the bank, stuff like that. But, if you look on the bold wall, one of the things says what you focus on expands. That's a bold block. So if you want to grow your net worth, you got to kind of focus on it a little bit. I mean, I only look at it like once a year, so I'm not like obsessively looking at it every single day, but you want to keep it in mind. So I would encourage you, as Myra told me, like track your net worth and update it once a year and see how it grows. And if it's not growing, obviously we got a problem. So you got to, you can't know where to go unless you're tracking something. So you got to keep track of it. So that'd be the first thing I do is track your net worth, because really like wealth to me equals net worth. That's kind of what wealth is. So that's why this is important. So I'm not going to talk about real estate sales because I don't really sell real estate, and there's tons of classes here to teach you how to grow your business. I'm going to talk about how to build your profit share, how to find rental properties, and then what to do about index funds. So I'm going to talk about building the passive income and then using that to buy the assets. So to what you said, how does recruiting work? So I'm gonna spend a little bit of time on this and then get into the nuts and bolts of how you actually recruit. So sponsorship. So whenever you bring someone into Keller Williams, so if you have a friend and you tell them to come to Keller Williams, it could be at your local office, it could be any office across the country, because I do most of mine remote. And they come on board with Keller Williams, the team leader or whoever fills out their paperwork for them is going to say, hey, John, like, how did you get here? Who was influential in bringing you to Keller Williams? And you have to put somebody's name down. Like you can't leave it blank. So, if you're the, like what they say, procuring cause, like in real estate, when you get a buyer, if you're the reason that they came to Keller Williams, they would put you down as as their sponsor. Does that make sense? Does that answer that question?
Yeah, I understand that part.
Okay. So, I mean, that's how sponsorship works. And some of the reason like why we do that is kind of what I explained to recruits on the phone is like, I say like Keller Williams actually doesn't do any advertising. Any ads you see are done by the agents or by maybe the team leader, like sponsoring it, but like the company of Keller Williams, you'll see billboards and ads for other real estate companies out there, but the KWRI doesn't necessarily do that. And so the way that we grow is more organically. We have to grow through word of mouth and through people like me or you or the team leaders actively going out there and recruiting. And so that's why, like, Gary came up with a way to reward that through sponsorship. Like, you get credit and you get monetary reward for bringing people on. So, it's a pretty cool system. And then profit share calculation. So this is kind of how the profit share, so this deal on the right. So you can get really bogged down in profit share coefficients and like how profitable the office is and all this kind of stuff. To be honest with you, I don't know all that math. I know this right here, but if you look at your profit share statement and it has all these other numbers that calculate how much money you made, I don't know how that works. And the point of it is, I'll just talk about this truth right here. You don't need to know in-depth calculations in order to recruit people. So my encouragement is don't use that as like as an excuse to be like, I don't know the ins and outs of this calculation, so I can't take advantage of it. You don't need to know that. But the basic stuff, you can know this. So it goes down 7 levels. So the person, if you recruit someone and they sell a house and they're not capped, right? So they pay a split to the office. Now, out of that, the office pays all their expenses and whatever's left over is profit. And now in every other model or most other models for other companies, the owners of the office keep 100% of profits. In the Kellogg's model, the owners take half the profits. And so the other half is redistributed back to the agents, and that's what they call profit share. And so if you sponsor someone, they sell a house, they pay company dollar, their split, based on how much they contributed towards the total profit share pool of the office, you would get a percentage of that. All right. And
Nick,
so
we have
yes.
a question. How do you get them to put you down as their sponsor when it comes time for that?
So that is a good question. I'll get into that in a little bit later, but I'll kind of cover it now too. You have to earn the sponsorship. That's the main thing. So, you can't just like send a team leader like a list of people you pulled online and that you've never spoken to and assume that they're all going to go in your downline. I spend at least like 30 minutes on the phone. I make a personal connection. If they're local, you can meet with them in person. I talked to someone in New Jersey this morning on a recruiting call, so I'm not going to meet in person, but I've talked to them on the phone. The main thing with ensuring the sponsorship, there's a couple of things. Like, number one, there's what I call a sponsorship script, and I'll get into that in a couple of slides. But I'll show you exactly like what I say when I'm on the phone, and it comes time to say, hey, by the way, we have this thing called sponsorship. This is how it works. So I'll answer that question in just a minute. So that's a good question.
Perfect.
So yeah, so it goes down 7 levels. So if you recruit somebody and they recruit somebody, they're in your second level. You recruit someone, they're in your first line. They recruit someone, they're in your second line. Now, the people you directly sponsor, you make the most money from. So that's what you see that 50%. So if you look here, 50, 10, 5, 5, 7.5, 10, and 12.5. So that's basically saying if the person that I directly sponsored in my first line, say whatever money that they're contributing to the profit share pool, I get half of that. And then the person underneath, you get 10% from the next person. So like Press is my sponsor. And so everyone that I've sponsored is in his second line. So basically, since he gets 10% of whatever I make, basically. So if I make like $1,000 a month in profit share, Press gets $200 of that or from that. So I always make about 5 times what he makes from, he's got Anna too, but from me directly. And what's cool is I've got people in my second line and one person in my third, and I've never talked to them or met them. So it's like the power of leverage. You just focus on your first line. As Aaron says, build it wide, time will build it deep. So, you can't really do much for the stuff beyond that, but just focus on that. So anyway, does that kind of make sense on how that works and profit share calculation? Cool. So yeah, obviously you make the most amount of money, 50% from the person that you directly sponsored. Because you're the one that did the work to do that. But the great thing is you still make all this other money from people that you did no work to bring on. So, that's pretty cool too. That's passive income and not having to work for money.
Yeah.
We like that. Okay, so I'm going to tell you two different methods. There's what I call the Nick/Brent method, because I actually learned how to do this from Brent Mitchell. I'm sure that a lot of people know about Brent Mitchell. He's a top recruiter in the company. So last year he actually did 197. I keep saying I'm going to beat him, but he keeps getting higher and he's way out of there. So I don't know what I'm going to do. But so I learned this from Brent. And I'm going to cover two methods. One is what I do, this method, the new agent method. And then the second one is what I call the Linda McKissick method, or the producing agents method. And so basically you can kind of adapt for you and figure out what works and apply it to your situation. Because the way I specifically do it might not be the way that you want to do it, but you can kind of learn a little bit from that. So I'm just going to tell you exactly how I do it. So this is a sequence. I start with Indeed ads. You said, how do you get the leads? I sponsor a job on Indeed, and it goes throughout the whole country. So it's not just related to Denton or Dallas. So I have a marketing budget, and I pay money to sponsor a job on Indeed, and so I advertise for agents. And so people apply on that, and then from there I send them to a website. So Press and I built a website. You're welcome to check it out. It's launchintorealestate.com. So you can check out that website. It's a real simple site that we built. And so on that site, they basically do another application. So we send them directly from Indeed to like the page on our site where they apply. And there's 3 different tabs where they self-select. You're either a new agent, like you just got your license, or you're thinking like you're in real estate school, so you're taking your classes, or you're not even in the process yet and you're just thinking about getting into real estate. So based on that, they get different follow-up sequences. So this would be like your smart plan in Command. We use a system called Infusionsoft, which is way above my head because I'm not a technology guy. So I use about 5% of the capabilities that Infusionsoft has, but we basically built out 3 different campaigns. And so whenever they apply on our site, like a drip campaign. So same thing that you could do in Command, basically. So you could do all that in Command. So through those campaigns, I send them a link. Now, if they're taking classes or they're just thinking about real estate, I don't allow them to set up a call. I don't send them a link to my calendar. But if they have their license or they're about to take their test, then they're like, getting ready to sign up. I send them a link to my calendar, and I use Acuity. I know there's like Calendly and all these different systems. So it doesn't matter what you use, but I use Acuity. You just send them a link, and it gets to your calendar. They sign up, and you just check out your calendar, and you have appointments. So it's pretty simple. So from there, they schedule a phone call with me. So I don't cold call. They literally set up appointments with me, and I just call them. So yeah, I don't have to cold call. That's pretty nice. And then from there, I actually do the recruiting call. So like I said, I spend about 30 minutes with them on the phone, make that connection. That's part of like earning the sponsorship, making sure that when they choose Keller Williams, that they choose you as their sponsor. The recruiting call is like a real important part of that. And after the recruiting call, assuming they're qualified, they're ready to go, that's when I send them to the office. So you figure out if they're local, obviously where to do it. If they're somewhere else, you got to look it up and see which office is close to them, and you send them to the right office and make the connection with the team leader or whoever it is. Because sometimes the team leaders only do cappers or producing agents and the ATL. So you got to figure out who meets with your person and send them to that person. And then the last one is follow-up. So most people don't sign up the same day they walk into the office. And so you have to follow up with them afterwards. So as Aaron says, you have 2 clients, the recruit and the team and the recruit and the team leader. And so I follow up with both. So after the appointment, I'm like, hey, team leader, how did it go with the recruit? Tell me about the appointment. Did they like it? Did they not? and I'll text the recruit and say, hey, you know, what do you think about the office? Did you like it? Tell me your thoughts. So I follow up with both because you want to stay on top because it's your recruit. So part of earning the sponsorship too is being involved in the whole process until they join. So don't get yourself out of the process until they join. So you want to make sure you're following up and helping people because a lot of times too, like things fall through the cracks. People miss emails. If you just send out an email and expect that they're going to call them and be on top of it, you know, how many times have you missed an email? The recruit might text me a few days later saying, hey, never got a call. And it could have just been an honest mistake. So you got to stay on top of that kind of stuff. And so regardless of how you get leads, so you might not want to do Indeed ads or build a website or any of that kind of stuff, and you don't have to. So regardless of how you actually get the leads and they come into the funnel, pretty much everyone goes through the last 3 steps. So there's the recruiting call, whether that's a phone call or in person, the office referral, and then follow up. So those are the things that I'm going to zoom in on and tell you how I do that, because no matter how you get leads, that's what you're going to end up doing. So this is what I call the anatomy of a recruiting call. So this is basically what I do when I'm on the phone talking to people. So I want to cover 5 different things. First of all, where you are in the licensing process. So, you know, do you have your license? Are you just thinking about real estate? You know, what's going on? Because personally, I want to send the most qualified people to the team leaders. I don't want to, you know, waste time with people that don't have their license yet. And that's just kind of something I've learned to be the most efficient and effective is like the people that have their license ready to go. That's just how you get more recruits, and you want to spend more time on the more qualified, just like with buyers. You know, if someone's ready to buy tomorrow, you're probably going to go show them houses and spend more time. If they're not going to buy for a year from now, you're probably not going to show them houses. You're just going to gently follow up a little bit and a little bit and not spend as much time. So the same thing as you would with buyers and sellers is with recruits. The more qualified people, you spend more time with them. So figure out where they are in the licensing process. Number 2, ask them if they've been to the office, if they've spoken with someone, because this is also part of securing a sponsorship. If they have a prior relationship with someone from Keller Williams, they're not going to put you down when they've signed up. If their sister is with Keller Williams in Florida, they're probably going to put their sister down. And so you want to find that you don't want to spend, I've done it plenty of times. I've had great recruiting calls. I just knocked it out of the park. And then, you know, at the end of the call, they're like, yeah, my brother is with the office. I'll go talk to him. I'm like, good. Thanks for wasting my time.
Do you want to take a picture of that?
Yeah, you can take a picture later. But really, like, they didn't waste my time. I wasted my own time because I didn't ask the question up front. And so that's just learning process for me. I didn't, you know, ask the right questions. So the same way you qualify a buyer, have you been pre-qualified with a lender, right? Are you going to show homes to someone that probably can't afford that house? You know, that's a waste of time. So you want to pre-qualify a recruit as well and make sure, like, do they have the license? Are you close to getting your license? Does your cousin work with Keller Williams, or have you already been to the office? You know, just figure that out. And then the third thing is explain the process, because a lot of people, for granted, they have no idea. So, like, how do I join Keller Williams? Well, first, you're talking on the phone with me. I'm going to, answer your questions, talk about Keller Williams. Then I'm going to send you, connect you with a team leader. Who's a team leader? Oh, they're like the manager. They run the office. They, help people sign on, stuff like that. So things that you take for granted because you're in Keller Williams and you know it, they have no idea. So you just want to explain the I can't tell you how many times I've just explained the process without answering a single question of here's what our fees and splits are. And they're like, that was very helpful. I'm glad you told me that. So super simple. Number 4, find out which office to send them to. So obviously if you're local and they're recruiting for your office, that's really simple and easy. If you're out of state, you got to, like I said, you got to find the right office. Make sure you don't send them super far away. Like there's probably in Houston, there's like 20 offices in Houston. So you don't want to send them when you could, there's an office right around the corner. So, and then I always make sure like you're on the same page. I'm like, hey, you live in Sugar Land, right? Okay, good. So there's an office here in Sugarland. So make sure you're on the same page and they know where they're going. And the last thing is, and this is where I spend the bulk of the time on a recruiting call, is answering questions. So people want to know, new agents, they all want to know the same thing. What kind of training do you have? What are the fees with the office? How much does that cost? What are the splits? How does that work? Um, you know, what are teams? Or what is a solo agent like? How does that work? So, explain, just answer questions. And the point I want to make for this is, um, if you know what your fees are, like, you know, all you guys are colorings agents. Like, Lauren, do you know what your split is with the office?
Mhm.
Do you know like what your monthly fee is?
Mhm.
Do you know how a team works?
Mhm.
So you know enough to recruit new agents.
So is it the same across the country with the split? Like,
Yeah.
is the office fee the same across the country?
So as I say, it's plus or minus this amount. It's mostly the same at most offices.
Okay.
So you don't have to be on the dot. They just want to know general information. And Keller Williams is mostly the same at most offices because it's all run on the same Keller Williams model. So, if you've been here for 5 days, you know more than the new agents know that haven't joined anywhere. You know enough to answer 90% of their questions. So don't let lack of knowledge or any of that stop you from talking to agents, basically. So, so the next two sections are the office referral and the follow-up. So you want to refer the recruit to a team leader. So this is important. Don't play the telephone game. So now if you're recruiting locally, like Jesse, our team leader, you know who to talk to here. But if it's virtually or like remote, it's more complicated. Because you got to call the office and figure out, who is the person that meets with your recruit. Because like I said, sometimes a team leader only does production agents. And if you have a production agent, then perfect, send them there. But if it's a new agent, maybe it's the productivity coach or the director of first impressions or the assistant team leader or the MCA, or it could be anybody. So you got to talk directly with the person who is meeting with your recruit. Because, if you ever play telephone, the message doesn't really get across very well when more people are involved. So you want, you sending the information directly to the person who's meeting with your recruit. And especially when you're going to follow up and ask how the meeting went, you want to talk to the person who met with the recruit because they know. So eliminate as many people in between as possible. And also, don't just send a blind email. Make a personal connection with the person who's meeting and talk to them on the phone, because the more that they know and like you, they'll help you when it comes time for sponsorship. So a lot of this stuff is all helping you secure a sponsorship. So make a personal connection and then follow up. Like I said before, you have two clients. You have the team leader and you have the recruit. So follow up with both of them. And my philosophy is follow up as much as you can without being annoying. Probably just like you would with a buyer or seller. If they're like, I'm going to buy in 3 months, you're probably going to call them in 1 month. You're not going to wait 3 months to call them. So, follow up as many times as you can, but obviously don't be annoying. And I'm sure you've heard you lose a lot more deals from not following up enough than you would by following up too much.
Yep.
So, it's better to err on the side of too much than it is on too little. So is that clear on those three, the call, the referral, and the follow-up? Any questions on any of that?
So Jesse is who we sent them to here. Is that the one you sent them?
Yeah, send them. Yeah, for here it's for Denton. Send them to Jesse. Yeah. Oh, and then sample sponsorship script. So if you want to know, what I say on the phone with the recruit to help, secure a sponsorship, I don't have like a word for word type thing, but I have just an example of kind of something I would say, and I do it at the end of the call too. So I don't hey, I'm Nick, put me as your sponsor. You gotta provide value before you just ask them to do something for you. So make sure you're giving value first. But at the end of the call, if it's going well and I'm going to send them to the office, I say something hey, oh, Lauren, by the way, did I tell you what sponsorship or how recruiting works in Keller Williams? And obviously they say no. They're like, no, what is that? And so I say, well, we basically we work on like referral basis and a word of mouth type of thing because Keller Williams doesn't do any advertising. And so whenever you go to the office, and if you love it and you want to join, they're going to say something like, "Hey, Lauren, like who brought you to the office, or who was helpful or influential in getting you connected with us?" And so I'd be honored if you could put my name down as the sponsor whenever they ask you that question and you fill out your paperwork. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, "Sounds good to me." So you never want to say, "Hey, put me as your sponsor." Make a demand or say, "Hey, I'm going to coach you, or I'm going to give you this if you do that for me," because that's not the spirit of the system. I always say, "Hey, I'd be honored if you could put me as your sponsor when you sign up," something like that. So that's just kind of an example of a script that I would use. So pretty simple. Okay, so recruiting best practices. So these are just things that I've learned over the couple of years of doing recruiting. Obviously, don't say anything bad about other companies. Even though like I really want to sometimes, not that I want to all the time, but like there's some, virtual companies that also recruit, and it's really easy to just want to say something negative about that. But I don't. I don't do that. So obviously when you say bad about somebody else, it just makes you look bad. So, and we're all agents, right? We're all on the same side anyway, at the end of the day, even if you're a different company. So don't talk bad about other companies, super simple. Earn the sponsorship. So everything that I've talked about, like, have the phone call with them, answer questions, provide value, send them to the team leader, follow up, all that kind of stuff. That's earning the sponsorship. I've heard stories where someone just like sends a list of people to a team leader, that they just pulled online or something, that they've never spoken to these people. That's not earning the sponsorship. So you want to make sure you earn it. Also, you're not the recruiter, you're just the referrer, right? So your job is not to make someone join Keller Williams. Your job is to help them find like the best option for them. And that's why I tell them too, when I'm on the phone, sometimes I'll say like, I want to help you find the best option for you, whether that's Keller Williams or another company. I'm just going to answer your questions and we'll see if we're a good fit for you or not. And the team leader's job is to do the recruiting. So their job is to like, you get them in the door and they'll get them signed up for you, ideally. So, you don't think that you have to convince somebody to join Keller Williams. And then this is super important. Something I've learned too is that the relationship with the team leader is more important than just one recruit. Because this could happen. So, for example, if something happens and the recruit puts someone else down as a sponsor, and you did all this work to get them in the door, and you feel like it should be you. Maybe yes and maybe no. But the point is, it's really easy in that moment to like, call the team leader and yell at them and say that they're terrible at their job. I'd advise against doing that. So you don't want to, if you're going to be doing this for a long time, you don't want to burn any bridges or relationships. And so like one recruit is, in the grand scheme of things, is not that important. If you're going to be doing recruiting for a lot, especially at your local office, you're going to be sending your team leader multiple people over the years, like a lot of people. So don't mess that up over one person. So just learn to let things go. If something bad happens, which, I'm sure everyone's had the experience where like their friend or their family member purchased a home with somebody else and not you, and that kind of sucks. But you didn't stop selling real estate because of that. So if a recruit puts someone else's name down, don't stop recruiting. It just happens, and just keep going. So just learn to let go of things and just, Gary says onward, keep going onward, This, in case you weren't hearing. So let's see. So the first year, I started in 2017. First year, I made $449. because, I spent almost the same amount of time as I do today. I spent a little bit more time today, but I spent a decent amount of time working on profit share that year, and I made about 500 bucks. So this is not a get rich quick strategy. um, but the next year, you can see it went to 9,000 or 8,800, and then about 15,000. And so last year I made about 32,000. So if you're curious how much money I made, 32,000 last year. And then up on the left, you can see in level one, I've got 174 people in my first line, and then 11 in my second, and really exciting, I got one in my third. That's kind of cool. So, but I've never met or spoken to the people in the second or third level. So that's the power of leverage, and like Aaron says, build it wide. Time will grow it deep. But
How'd you access that report?
this report, so my KW, get on your my KW, and then if you go like where your avatar picture is, right underneath it, there's a link. I think it's called reports.
Yeah, very early.
Okay, click on that link, takes you to another page, and then there's tabs, and then there's like a profit share recruiting tab, and you just click it, and then it gets to that. So, yeah, access your report. Yeah, what you focus on expands. So you should check this. But anyway, so that's mine.
So, like,
Yeah.
There's months up there that say zero.
Yeah.
In the first year, or whatnot. Is that because, is the profit share based off of overall profit share of the company, or only if your agents actually produce, your sponsored agents?
Yeah, so good question. So is the profit share based on the profit of the overall company or just your recruits producing? A little bit of both. So if the people that you recruit don't sell anything, you're not gonna make any money, obviously, because they didn't contribute to the profit share pool. And so you only make money from people that you sponsor. So if someone else sells a home and they contribute to the profit share pool, but they're not in your tree, you're not going to get anything from that. So the people that you sponsor have to sell in order for you to get anything. So that's the first criteria. And is the office has to be profitable, right? So if there's no profit for the office, obviously there's not going to be any profit share. That's why some offices, the better run an office is, like, the leadership, they do better helping the agents, and the agents sell more homes, and the expenses are low. Some offices profit share a lot more than other offices because the business is just run better. So like if I take a recruit in one office and I put them in another office that's more profitable, and they sell the same amount of real estate, I'll make more money from that other office, even though my recruit sold this like the same amount. So it has to do with both. Your recruit has to sell, and the office has to be profitable too.
So even if you have, let's just say 10 direct sponsored people in your office, in this office, and they sell zero real estate for the month of January, it's gonna be zero.
Yeah.
But if they have a outstanding month, all 10 of them do, and the overall market center has a good month as well, then that month will be good for you, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Better than an average month.
That's why, you can see like, so the most I ever made so far was July was $6,000. And I was really surprised when I saw that, because my recruit sold a lot, but if you remember, like, in August, September, October, like, Keller Williams as a company was like extremely profitable. Everyone's like, our office has had record months, everything's doing really good. So the offices themselves were very profitable too. So it's both. You want Keller Williams to do well, and you want your agents to sell homes too. Yeah.
Do you use the referral network to find the offices when they're out of state?
So they changed whenever they updated the website. I had a different method, and then they updated the website, and I had to find a different method. But I actually go to KW Commercial. This is the way I do it. There's KW Commercial, and you scroll down, and there's like find an office, and then it takes you to another page, and there's just like a Google Maps, and they have like pins of where all the offices are. So I literally just scroll over and zoom in and find where they are, and find the pin of their office. And then I kind of check my work almost on the white pages. So if you ever access the white pages, that's through my KW. You can search for, type in any associate's name, find an agent. You can type in office too, and you can search by city, search by office name, and that's the most active. And so and that's how I find the team leader too. So if I'm like, oh, there's an office in Orlando, I'll search for it on like that map thing that I talked about, and I'll find the name of it, and then I'll go to the white pages and type that name into the white pages, and it'll show, pull up the office info. Here's the team leader. Here's the office number. I'll click on the team leader's profile, and I'll call their cell phone.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny sometimes because I've called the main office, and I'm like, hey, I'm Nick from Dallas, KW, and can you give me the team leader's phone number? And they're like, oh, don't know if I can give that out. I'm like, well, I could just get on the white pages and get it myself. So I don't know why you're being all secretive about it.
Is there a way to know if they're more profitable too, or is that just something you would?
If you asked Aaron Kaufman, he could probably tell you that. I don't know. I don't really focus, and that's sort of the nuts and bolts things that I don't really get too into of like trying to find out which office is more profitable. I just try to do what's best for like the recruit. And if like there's an office 5 minutes away, I'm not going to send them 45 minutes away to this other office. So I would just go with whatever's the closest to them. Just try to focus on what's best for them. Okay. So good questions though. This is what I call the producing agents method, or the Linda method. And so who is this? Like what they call co-op agents, or friends from other real estate companies. So this is where you get a lot more bang for your buck, because new agents, you know the stats for like how successful, what are the chances a new agent is going to sell and stuff like that. So you have to do a lot for that to work, or over time to make money. If you get one producing agent, that's worth 10 or 20 new agents. And so you can spend more time on this and do a lot less, but still make a good amount of money. And this is where, like, if you're actively involved in selling real estate, which I'm not, so I do the new agent method, but if you are, that's why I recommend, doing this too. So anytime you work with, another agent on a transaction, or, I'd encourage you to like just have friends outside of Keller Williams. Find agents that are not in Keller Williams and become friends with them. And so the formula for this, is give, ask. And so if anyone's heard of Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, he's a cool guy. He writes a lot of like marketing type content. He has a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. And it's about marketing. So the jab is like giving value, and then the right hook is asking for something. So, if you've ever been friends on Facebook with someone that like every post they make is like, asking for a sale, or like, who wants to buy a house, that kind of gets old after a while. And so he's like, you want to give value, provide value, and then, ask for business or something like that. So the same thing when working with, agents from other companies, producers. You want to give. So with new agents, it's really easy. Like all they want is to find a place to like. They're like a agent without a home. They just need a home. So it's like, hey, Keller Williams, we're great. Come over here. It's pretty simple. With an experienced agent, a producer, they have a home and maybe they're happy there. And so you have to spend more time to help them see the value of Keller Williams and to get them to switch. And so that's why you give before you ask. And so the main thing is like find what they need in their business and help them solve that. Use a Keller Williams resource to help them solve their problem. Because anybody in real estate, they have a gap, like what I talked about in like the first or second slide. Like, where do you want to be and where are you right now? And what's missing? What's the link? And so help them figure that out. Get to know them. Like I said, literally just make friends. Just be friends with people from other real estate companies. Go out to coffee, hang out with them. Accountability partners. Stuff like that. And if you can continually like provide value and using things at Keller Williams to help them increase their business, Linda says it creates what's called beholdenness. So whenever you do something for somebody, they want to do something for you too. And so whenever you get to that point where you've built a relationship enough, then you can make an ask. And a small ask might be, come to my office for a class. And then they're like in the environment. Ask can be, hey, do you mind if my team leader gives you a call? Maybe she can set up a business consultation or see how they can help you out. So that's like the main one. Just get them in front of the team leader, but you need to provide enough value on the front end before they're going to say yes to something like that. Also, hey, do you want a ticket to family reunion? That's a great thing too. And then here's a tip, like Linda always says, try to do this without even saying the words Keller Williams. Because a lot of times I know like we're super excited about our company. I mean, I think this is the best real estate company out there. So it's really easy to say, hey, KW this, Keller Williams that, KW this. And people that aren't, in our company kind of get annoyed by that. So, Linda has this thing where she says, I talk to them, I provide value, and eventually they're like, hey, what company are you with? They're like, so you're with Keller Williams, right? So like they bring it up. So you can do all this without even saying the phrase Keller Williams. And that'll keep you from being annoying, hopefully. And the big thing on this is focus on like 5 agents. Don't try to do a ton of people. Put it on a board, write it down. Like with new agents, I've got like a list of like 60 to 70 people that I'm kind of like following up with. But with this method, 5. Don't try to do too much. You want to go deep with each person because you're really building relationships with this method. So, think of like 2, 3, 4, 5 people that from other companies and just hang out with them. Go to Starbucks or something. I don't know if Starbucks is open these days, but it is good. Go to Starbucks. So anyway, that's how that works. I don't do this as much, but so that's why I'm not spending too much time on it. But that's the formula of how you would do it with producing agents. So does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so back to my really cool graphic that I'm proud of. So profit share. So, you remember the way to build, there's a wealth building class. So the way to build wealth is increase your income and use that to buy assets. So that was the left side. You got to get to the right side. So I spent most of the time on profit share because that's, what I do a lot. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on rental properties and index funds. And so, once you build up your profit share, you make, 30,000 a year, or, you build up your real estate sales business, you're making 6 figures. What do you do with that money? How do you transfer income into wealth? Because, that's the name of the game here. So buying real estate, 3 things. So there's a ton of things. There's flipping, wholesaling, all these other types. Flipping is just active income. Flipping doesn't build wealth. So I'm going to focus on rental properties. The way that you get wealthy is by owning things. So you got to own properties. And so there's three methods: analyzing, finding, and buying. So with analyzing, so you got to know, my philosophy is you got to know what a good deal is before you can go find it. And if you know how to spot a good deal, it'll make it easier for you to find it too. And so the mistake with the rental properties, anyone anyone own rental properties, by the way? You do? Oh, awesome. So you know.
I just have one.
One property? Awesome. Cool. So you know, I mean, you probably get this. Like the mistake I see sometimes, people that are just like not really investors, but wanting to buy a house, they make like, oh, so my mortgage is going to be $1,200. I'm going to charge $1,600 a month in rent. So I'm going to make $400 a month. Right. And that's how you lose money. So that's not true. So consider all your expenses. So what expenses do you have on a rental property? Well, you've got your mortgage, obviously. For me, I have escrow, taxes, and insurance. That's why I don't have it on this list. So I put PITI all on my mortgage. But if you don't escrow, calculate your taxes and insurance separately. Property management, if you manage it yourself, save that money, or hire a property manager. 7 to 10% of the rent is kind of where they're at. Repairs, I do about $100 a month allocating repairs. I probably should do. Um, they tend to, depending on the house, the age of the house, and the condition, you could spend more than that. So just you want to have something built in for that. Vacancy, I've always factored in a 5% vacancy. So take that off the top as well, because there'll be turnover, or when you buy it, you gotta, don't know how long it takes to rent it out. I know, like right now, things like fly off the shelves, but you want to always, you want to plan for every type of market. Don't just, if you only, even this, I tell recruits on the phone, I'm like, if you only know how to sell, you got to learn how to do every market. So
this might be a silly question, but how do you calculate the vacancy? Are you saying 5% of the monthly rent?
Right. So that the percentage is all taken off of the rent. So if it's like, $1,000 a month in rent, then you take out 5%, and that's $50. So I would say my rent is now $950. Same thing with property management, take 7% off of it. And then HOA. So I have 2 homes that are in HOAs, and the other ones are not. So, if it is an HOA, you obviously got to factor that in. Tip, don't buy condos, because they have really high HOAs. Unless, you live in a place where condos are great. But I don't buy condos because they have like $200 a month HOAs, and that's your whole cash flow. So stay away from that. So my rule is, some people are like, okay, if I can just break even after all expenses, or, some people they're like, oh yeah, I pay an extra $100 a month because I lose $100 a month, but I'm making equity build up or whatever. I don't know. That's not my game. So I want to be at least like $100 a month after all expenses. And for me, like, I'm not trying to get rich off of this rental income or really even live off of it. That's more of just a buffer. So if you have more expenses, or you can't rent it for what you think, or the vacancy is a little bit longer, that extra cash flow covers that. So this is how you don't lose money in real estate. Now, the 1% rule is a rule of thumb on how to quickly analyze properties. So you might have heard of the 1% rule. It's pretty popular among like investing groups and stuff like that. Basically just says you want your rent to be at least 1% of your total all-in cost, or of whatever you mortgage on the house. That'll kind of guarantee a good cash flow. So if you think this home you're analyzing is going to rent for $1,500 a month, you want your mortgage to be no more than $150,000.
So that not so much the value of the home, but what you're.
No, I mean, you would hope the value is going to be higher than what you're paying for it. So it's not the value, it's because the mortgage determines your expense, like your monthly payments. So it's that part that you want to be the 1%.
So even if you're a cash buyer, so like if the rent in the area is $1,600, you wouldn't want to spend more than $150,000.
Correct. And I know that's not easy. Like, that's hard to find. I found one last week that was going to be like that, actually. So you can find them. What you can do, if like it's tight, you would just have to put more money down. So if you buy it for 170 or 180, you need to come, $30,000 down to get the mortgage to a point where it's low enough to hit that 1% to cash flow rent. But in the absence of a calculator or a computer or Excel spreadsheet, when you're just kind of out in the field, 1% is a really good rule of thumb just to quickly filter through properties. So here's an example. This is one of my houses in Denton, 1904 Parkside. So the rent is $17.95. And then here's are my actual expenses. So I've got my mortgage, which I escrow, taxes, and insurance. So it's $1,267. So property management. So here's the thing. There's 2 different things. There's actual and there's projected. Because for me, I manage my properties. So I don't pay anything in property management. So there's 0. Vacancy, it's rented right now. So there is no vacancy. So there's 0. Repairs, that probably should be higher, but is, say $100 a month. It's not in an HOA, so I don't pay any HOA. And so the actual total expenses are $1,367. Now, when I'm going to analyze it, if I didn't own this property and I was looking at buying it, you would want to analyze and make your purchasing decision based on projected. So that would be the second part of it. That's the property management, 126 projected, that's 7% of the rent. The vacancy, 90 is 5% of the rent. And so that brings your expenses to 1,583. So you have your cash flow. You know, I make about $428 a month on this house. But if I didn't own it and I was looking at buying it, I would say, okay, I'll probably make $212. So does that make sense? And so you want to make your purchasing decision based on what I call projected cash flow, not on actual. So your actual should be higher. So the goal is once you own it, you're going to make more money than you thought you would. The same thing when I'm flipping a house. You know, I'm very conservative on the numbers, and my goal is that I'm going to make more money when I actually sell it than I thought I was going to make. And this is all about helping you not lose money. You know, so make your purchasing decision based on projected numbers, which should be more expensive than your actual numbers. So anyway, that's a real life example of one of my houses. So that's analyzing. Now finding. How do you find that? So this could be a whole other class. I'm just going to cover this briefly, but there's a few ways. Number one, your listings. So when you go list a house, right, you should always ask yourself, would this make a good investment? You know, do you think they would, you know, my seller would take an offer from me? And, you know, you're the first person there on the scene. So, you know, you might as well ask yourself that question. Number two is wholesalers. Lauren, have you ever worked with wholesalers before?
I haven't worked with them, but I know what they do.
Okay, yeah.
I've had them ask me.
So there's different companies out there like New Western and can't remember other ones, but you know, I've never purchased one from a wholesaler, but I've been to the showings and I've like made offers and stuff like that. And so they basically just go out and do the work to find a deal. So they get a deal locked up for a really great price. Say they get it for $150,000, and then they'll market it, say, hey, you can buy this for $160,000. And at 160, it could still be a good deal, right? And they're going to make $10,000 off of what they call their wholesale fee. And so they just make money by finding good deals and then letting the investors actually buy them. And so you could get on, you know, a bunch of lists, and they send them out, and you could go to the, you know, showings and make offers, and basically having someone else do the work of finding a deal for you, and you just have to, you know, pay a little bit more for it. So that is an option. What I do is personal marketing. This is how I find things. I've done cold calling. Personally, I like direct mail. And so really what I do, this is how I find deals. I get lists of what I call like motivated sellers. You know, so if you go to a list provider, you can do absentee owner lists, or you could do a bankruptcy list, or you could contact the city of Denton and do a code violations list. And so, you know, there's tons of lists of people who might be motivated to sell their house. You know, there's foreclosure lists and stuff like that. So you basically you want to find a list and then you want to market to it. And so my marketing method that I do is direct mail. So I just get a list of say 1,000 people and I send mail. And obviously most people don't respond. And then the half of them that do respond say, take me off your list. Then the other half could be deals. So this is a way that I buy houses.
Do you have to pay for the list?
Yeah, you have to pay. So there's like listsource.com, there's a list provider, you pay for the list. There's a subscription, propstream.com. I pay $100 a month to subscribe to PropStream, and you can just pull whatever you want from there. That's a pretty good deal. So, and then what's the best is like ones you get directly from the city or the county. Those are free, but they're harder to get. So the rule of thumb is the harder a list is to get, the better it will be for marketing, because not as many people are going to be marketing to that list. So, and then the easiest way, and this is how I got my first 2 rental properties, the easiest way to get into the game of investing and turn it into a rental. So I moved out of my parents' house, and I had some roommates that wanted to also move out of their parents' house, and I bought a house, and they lived with me, and that's what they call house hacking. If you ever heard that phrase? So I owned the house. My roommates paid me rent, and after I paid like $200 a month for my mortgage. It was pretty nice. But then we lived in that for a year, and then I found a new house to buy. We moved over there, and I kept the first one, and it became my first rental property. And that's easy because when you buy your own personal home, you only need 5% down, or 3.5% or whatever it is. But with a non-owner occupied loan, you need 20%. It's a lot more expensive. So the easiest way to get into investing is just move a lot. Just buy a house, live in it, move, and turn it into a rental property. So that's how I got my first 2 properties. And purchasing. So there's 2 ways. I call the normal way and the creative way. So the normal way is what I just said, 20% down loan. A non-owner occupied loan is 20%. So if you're gonna, buy a rental property, you probably need, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to put down on the house, which takes a lot of money. But if you increase your income, your active and your passive income, you save money. When you have, $30,000, go buy a rental property. And that works, do like 1 a year or something like that. And that'll be really good. The creative way is what I call BRRRR, although I didn't make that up. So you might have heard of it, but it stands for buy, rehab, refinance, rent, and repeat. That's the BRRRR method. So you would find a house to buy, and this is with cash. So you're buying it with cash. You're going to fix it up, you're going to rent it out, and then you're going to get permanent financing on it and pull your money back out and then go rinse and repeat. So that's the BRRRR method. There's tons of articles if you search for it online that explain it and stuff like that. But with this method, you have to pay cash. And this goes to kind of what I talked about now down at the bottom. The truth is, like, to be really in the game of investing, you need to pay cash for homes. Because most of these homes, like when you do marketing and to these, like, most of the time you have to pay cash for them. They're like, I want to sell in 2 weeks, or the home is messed up and can't get financing, like the roof is bad or something like that. So most of the good deals out there are not bought with traditional financing. So you need cash. So, I don't have $200,000 laying around, so you don't need your own cash, but you do need cash. So that's private money and hard money. And you say, you're saying you were talking about private money and these people. So, there's tons of people out there. I'm sure everybody knows a wealthy person, and you can use that to partner on a deal. Like I partnered on a flip with Jim last year, and we split it, and I found it and he paid for it. So I'll tell you this, if you find a good deal, there'll be plenty of money for, people who want to partner with you on it. So if you focus on the finding, there's a lot of people with money that will give you money to do this. But yeah, that's, if you don't have your own stack of cash laying around, private money is just people, like personal relationships lending you money, and hard money is like an actual lender that's going to charge you like 12% and 3 points or something like that, and they'll give you money tomorrow. It's really expensive, so I wouldn't do that for a rental property. Do it for a flip. So you want that just for like a month or 2, something like that. But yeah, so that's how that method. Does that make sense? Any questions about that?
My only question is, like, if you already have the buyer, like Jim, did he put his name on the contract, or did you secure it and then sign it?
So I had my name on the contract, and then when he decided he wanted to partner with me on it, we just amended it and put his name on the contract.
Okay. Well, like both of y'all, or just him?
Just him.
Okay.
Yeah. So technically, I didn't even own the house.
Okay.
But obviously, I trusted him that he wasn't going to run away with my house. So
Yeah.
Partner with people you trust.
Yeah.
Good plan.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't sign, like, we didn't do a contract agreement between, like, we just, we knew what the deal was. So, Okay, so the last thing I was going to cover is what I call your stock plan. And I pretty much learned this from Myra. This is like her thing that she talks about all the time. But this is, you're focusing on buying properties. Also buy this. Or, this is my advice. Obviously, if the market goes down, don't blame me. But this is what I do. So I open a Vanguard account. And I put money into an IRA. So I have a Roth IRA with Vanguard. And here's the thing, I don't know anything about stocks. So I'm going to say you're in real estate. Don't try to be a stock expert, be a real estate expert. But this is like stocks for real estate agents. And you don't have to read books and learn about it. You just do this and it's super simple. An index fund, you might know, you don't have to, you're not a stock picker, you're not a day trader, you're just a long-term, slow, boring wealth builder. And so I buy index funds. So the Vanguard one is called VTSAX. It stands for the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund. And so, over time, the stock market averages 10% a year. For the last 50 years, if you go look at it, the stock market has returned about 10% a year for the last 50 years. And so an index fund is a slice of the whole market. So what I tell people is like, if you're not Warren Buffett, you're not going to beat the market. So don't try. Just do as well as the market. And that's an index. So I'm like, you can't do better than an index fund.
Yeah.
So here's the difference. You'd max out your IRA, which is $6,000 a year as the max. And if you still have more money you want to put in after that, you can do a SEP, which is a self-employment plan. Since we're real estate agents, we're self-employed. They give us something else to do. And so a SEP, you can do 25% or $58,000, which is whichever is less. So you can put, once you max out IRA, you can do your SEP. If that's maxed out, or you put money in that, you want to do more, you just have a normal brokerage account. So it's still invested in the same index fund, it's just not tax sheltered. So here's two examples of what I call how to guarantee you're a millionaire when you retire. $6,000 a year, your IRA deal, invest for 30 years is $1 million. And if you don't have 30 years, put in 18,000 a year. And for 20 years, it's $1 million. So the slow and boring way to be the millionaire next door. That's pretty much the easiest way I could think of to be a millionaire. It just takes a long time.
Yeah.
But while you're buying properties, max out your IRA and do it with an index fund. That's my recommendation. So, any questions about that?
Well, I do the IRA. I've never heard about the SEP.
Yeah. So if you have more, like you're like, hey, 6,000 is not enough, I want to put more. Check out the SEP.
Yeah, I'm just happy when I can do all the 6,000.
Yeah.
Because we only do it for just me and not my husband too. Because we'll get there though.
So that's the last slide. That's total wealth building holistic plan. Any questions or anything?
Question, but
Yeah.
kind of, I don't know much about this whole IRA thing, but isn't it possible that once you build up quite a bit of capital in there, you can borrow from your IRA, like self-directed?
Yeah. So there is a self-directed.
Invest into flips, basically.
Yeah.
Be your own private money lender.
Yeah, you can. So there is what's called a self-directed IRA, and you can use the money in your IRA to buy whatever you want to. I haven't done that. I've looked into it, but you have to fill out some paperwork and all that stuff. But you can't realize any of the gains from it. Like if you flip a property and you make money, that has to go stay in the IRA. You can't take it out because it's heavily taxed until you retire. So it's got to stay in there. But yeah, there is such thing as a self-directed IRA that you can buy real estate with. Yeah, it's possible.
So in my situation where I feel stuck, like, you think it's just patience is the game just to save up? Because I've already tried the HELOC route and we just can't qualify to use the equity that we have.
Yeah, I mean the main thing is you got to build up your income.
Yeah.
The active and passive income, like I was talking about, increase that so then you can go to that side. you know, but if you find a good deal, like I said, like I'll buy it, or there'll be other people that can buy it, and you know, that'll help you make money. Obviously,
Yeah.
it won't help you with owning the house, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's, I mean,
I think 2020 is our game changer year, where we'll actually have income on the tax return. It's just,
Yeah.
you know, you gotta prove like that you've been in a job for a while too. So like now I've been in it 2 years, so that's good. But like my husband's been in job transition, so it's hard to prove that his is steady. So they wanna see like the whole why.
right. Yeah, that's tough, especially when you try to write off everything to not pay any taxes. Then
Yeah.
you have no income. They're like, you didn't make anything.
Exactly, yeah. When he did this for a while, when he had the business for 5 years.
Yeah. So there's really, you gotta be able to qualify for financing
Yeah.
if you want to own the property. So yeah, you gotta, if you can focus on getting your income up, that opens the door for a lot of other things. You know. So all right.
I'm just gonna make sure you don't have any new questions, but I think you got everything.
Were there people that typed things on there?
Yeah,
You only asked me one question.
you answered most of them.
Oh, okay.
All right, guys, thank you for coming.
Or is there a couple of jobs?
My wife's about to join us, she just passed her birthday.
Thank you.
I was wondering.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, y'all.
When